But they don't understand the situation where the private sector is actually the engine that pays everybody's bills, and it works best if it is left alone to do that.
Yeah, that's sage advice. And I think, as you say, it's difficult. I mean, who knows what they will try? I mean, we've just been through a pandemic, which was crazy. The way it was dealt with was crazy. So, and you have to give your head a shake as to how that evolved that way. And then, so yes, anything and everything is possible here. But I think what is so interesting about the sanction blowbacks, this is what they've done is shoot themselves in the foot. It is so, you cannot put this back in the bag. And the sanctions have blown back. And all of a sudden, what we see is a central bank out there for the first time openly saying, I will buy your gold and here's my price. And furthermore, oh, by the way, I'll give you a 30% discount to use that gold. My God, at the margin, we all know how at the margin, the physical paper balance has been teetering. I mean, this, before these sanctions came in, before the blowbacks, before the geopolitics kicked in, you and I were talking about this a long time. It's already en route. It's already, the price of gold was already destined to rise. And, we knew it would. We knew it would. And you were very, very early in the game too. There was very few people talking about Basel III. So important because the BIS already knew that this was going to happen at some point, that gold would be revalued. It had to be revalued. And all the things you've said, I mean, and this is where I see a bit of a divergence. It's interesting because I talked to Daniela Di Marto Booth about this, who said, oh, the Fed, I worked in the Fed, never mentioned gold, never, it's interesting, didn't realize they hadn't mentioned money, even worse, but they hadn't mentioned gold. And I think it's so interesting because it just makes you realize how out of touch these central planners are. And they have no clue. We're literally in the hands of fools. So it's an interesting time.
Yeah, it is. But well, what can I say? It's gone that way basically because governments have gone that way, and every government minister looks not to stand back, if you like, and say, look, if government gets involved, this is just going to get worse. Really, the best thing we can do is let you sort out your own problems, not have us in there. Now, no minister can do that. No MP can do that. They're all in there basically with one purpose. They are expected to intervene on behalf of whoever asks them to intervene. And that can only go so far. I mean, it becomes a process whereby it doesn't take very long before government actually does realise that its function is to intervene. It's as simple as that. And I mean, it shouldn't be, but they don't understand the situation where the private sector is actually the engine that pays everybody's bills, and it works best if it is left alone to do that. And going back to Hong Kong, I mean, that was such a fascinating situation because after the Second World War, I mean, for a start, the island was completely destitute, being economically destroyed completely by the Japanese occupation. Shortly after that, I mean, when the colonial officers, it was then, sent out cadets. Now, the cadets basically were the guys who were trained administrators, and they had been trained to administer Hong Kong. So they were ready to go back in after the war. What they did, and particularly in the case of John Cowperthwaite, was not only were they very able administrators, not only could they handle the situation well, but they understood that the last thing you wanted was to have economic specialists from London telling him what to do, saying collect this statistic, that statistic, because we need to be able to measure this, that, and the other thing. Comerthwaite turned around. He told everybody in his employ. He said, look, no statistics. Don't want to know. Forget it. And he basically, what he did was, he said, look, this economy is recovering without our intervention. What we will do is we will keep the level of income tax, no other tax, of income tax at 14%. Now, bear in mind that this was a country or an island state with a little bit of the mainland sort of attached under treaty, which had no natural resources, had to more or less import everything before it exported anything. So it became a sort of entrepot centre, as it were. And not only that, but you had the communists raging around the Chinese mainland, creating a massive immigration problem. I mean, you had people trying to get the hell out of Shanghai and everything. But what they did with Shanghai was they said, oh, well, okay, all these traders want to come out of Shanghai. We'll welcome them with open arms. And it was sensible policies like that, plus non-intervention, which turned Hong Kong from complete destitution at the end of the Second World War to one of the wealthiest nation states in the world before we handed it back to China. And look at Germany. When you had the wall going down, you had East and West Germany. I mean, the reason the wall fell down was that despite all the heavy censorship of news and all the rest of it, the Osties knew that just a stone throws away, you didn't have to queue for food or do anything like that. You had a far higher level of freedom. We're talking about the same people, just divided by a wall. So, the message from all this is that government should be small. It should not intervene. It should leave us, as private citizens, to go about our business, make our own mistakes and make our own money, not tax it away, not remove our savings through taxation, just butt out, keep it down to below 20% of GDP. And, then you will have a healthy economy. So, I mean, the point where this is relevant to gold is that there has got to be an awful lot of change in the way we do things, as well as introducing or reintroducing sound money as the centerpiece of our currency system. And they are not going to give up lightly, I can tell you. They will try and go down with the ship rather than save the ship. I can see that. I really can see that. It's going to be very tough. You've got to have some physical gold, physical silver in order to get through it. And you will spend it, not take a profit. That's the point.
You've summed it, absolutely summed it up. You've got to have physical gold and physical silver. And it's exactly the same message that Robert Kiyosaki gave us when we did an interview with him. He just kept saying, tell people, have you got physical? All I care about is, have you got physical? And I think, as you say, we don't know what's going to happen. You've just outlined all the things that very likely will happen, because history always repeats itself at some point. And you've drawn some really interesting parallels there. And I think all we can do, at this point, is to be our own central bank and literally make sure we've got some physical and in our possession, and make sure they can't take it away from us. And there are ways of doing that. So, but again, we've got the beauty of this, the irony of this sanctions is that all they've done is really open the gold window again, and accelerated the process. As you say, they don't want to go down with the ship, but they may have to. But as you say, how little gold is held. What is there is probably rehypothecated to a large degree. How little gold we have in comparison to just combine the empirical evidence that we have, say 34,000 tons of gold between Russia and China. There's the physical market, not the LBMA. I mean, there's where the price is going to be set.
Yeah.
And there's an active buyer there saying, bring it
Yeah.
on. I'm sorry, but I don't think there's any going back from here. And I think it's going to be very tough for them to actually confiscate gold or those kind of things. But I do take I think we should all listen to your advice there. Silver gives you another degree of separation. It's a very important, and I think thank you so much for sharing all your sage thoughts with us today. And you've spared an hour of your time here today, and really do appreciate everything you've brought to us.
Well, I very much appreciate your live from the vault sessions, because it certainly keeps me informed about what's going on in the market, which is always interesting. But I would say that one of the problems with the LBMA is I don't think any member of the LBMA actually understands that bigger picture which we've been talking about. But nonetheless, it's interesting, to sort of know what is going on within the LBMA, within the Bank of International Settlements, their trading desk, and so on and so forth. And it just helps put the complete picture together. So I'm very grateful for that too.
Well, all the pieces of the jigsaw are there for us all to make up. As you say, it's down to us. We have to make up our own minds. If we're left alone enough to be able to go and buy our gold and silver today, at least they're not interfering with that yet. So at least we have that window of opportunity ourselves to stack physical. But thank you so much, Alasdair. It's been such a buzz to have you.
That's very much my pleasure, Andy. And thanks, Shane, too.